To deny Hispanics' involvement in not just hip hop, but modern day music, period, is crazy. I'm a black dude who loves hip hop, everything about the culture. I've studied music more than I've studied most things in my life. Music has always been a passion of mine. Music was my first love, specifically rap music. So it bothers me when I see a 23-year-old dingaling in my comment section who was born in 2002 or something, or even more sadly, some 43-year-old ding-dong who doesn't even know his own history, let alone the history of music, try to convince me that Hispanics didn't have a big hand in the creation of hip-hop. All because they watched a random documentary on YouTube about the, quote, so-called real history of hip-hop. A lot of black folks are in denial on the true origins of hip-hop. And the truth that many of you refuse to admit is that Latinos are not guests in hip-hop. They helped build this motherfucker from the ground up. I recently came across a well put together documentary about the Hispanics, Latinos' impact on music, specifically and most importantly, hip hop. The real history, not the history created by some random dude on YouTube who has an agenda. I found this documentary on a channel called Hip Hop History Origins and Elements. I put the link to the full documentary in the description. This documentary brought all the receipts. So let's dive into it a bit and discuss the true history of Hispanics in hip hop. Most of the elements in hip hop started way before 1973.
There's no way you could be brought up in those 5 boroughs, walk in the 70s, 60s and 70s, walk around the street and not run into somebody playing congas in the street, a group of guys playing congas in the street. So the B-boys, again, grew up listening to this. So that's the descarga. What the B-boys are doing, they just doing it with their body. It's a descarga.
Whose idea was it to have that massive break, that world-famous break in the song?
Peace will come, the world west?
The drum solo, the drum break.
Oh, the breakdown.
Yeah.
Mine. Of course, you got to have the Latin. I had to go to the timbales. The only way you can do it.
Breaking. The breakbeat. If you know your hip hop, you know about the breakbeat.
Bomba is one of the oldest musical traditions in Puerto Rico. Born from the fusion of Taino, Spanish, and African influences. It's a genre that expresses the feelings and the stories of the enslaved and oppressed Arawak Taino and African people. Bomba's a conversation between the dancer and the drummer who respond to each other's cues and rhythms, but nothing is rehearsed.
Sound familiar? I think this is too deep for some of you Negroes out there. I think you might need to go grab that blunt real quick. Take a couple more hits. Go ahead. I know this is your 3rd blunt of the day. This is your 3rd backwood. Go on to take a couple more hits. Maybe it'll help you focus a little more and pay attention to some real history.
Bomba and hip-hop have similarities. Both are based on the mixture of Taino and African heritage and represent the realities and aspirations of their people. They both go off into a call and response. For hip-hop, it's the communication between the DJ and the b-boy. In bomba, it's the communication between the dancer and the drummer.
I'm going to really need you guys to go to this channel, Hip Hop History Origins and Elements, and check out this well put together documentary. Hit that like button for me real quick, though, before we continue. Smash that like button. And if this is your first time joining the channel and you like what you hear, you hate what you hear, you mad what you hear, hit that subscribe button. A lot of you like to listen to things like this because it upsets you. This is the first generation where we watch and listen to stuff that upsets us. I never understand you young kids, and sadly a lot of you old motherfuckers too. You watch stuff that upsets you, but don't let this documentary upset you. Don't let the Hip Hop History Origins and Elements documentary about the true history of Hispanics in hip hop. Don't let that upset you. All right? Just learn from this. Learn to do your own research. Learn not to base your whole opinion on one documentary that you watched on YouTube.
Hip movements on the ground as we're doing circular footwork, clockwise and counterclockwise. You know what I'm saying? We're doing transitions into freezes and movements that
Sound familiar?
are different. I mean, I'm talking about the foundational b-boy movements that are different from some of the other b-boy styles that don't have a transitional style or hip or rotational movements. Those come specifically from Latin styles of dancing.
You're going to sit here and tell me that there's no influence? Let's talk jazz. Our brown homies had a lot to do with the influence of jazz, and this documentary touches on it brilliantly.
In 1914, the citizens of Harlem, they petitioned the governor of New York State to grant them their own military unit to be based in Harlem. They hired James Reese Europe. He got the rank of lieutenant, and he created an ensemble. And this group, what they did, which is really important, was they created a new sound. This gentleman here, Rafael Hernandez, one of the most important composers of music from Puerto Rico, well, he was a trombonist. And what happened was James Reese Europe was ordered by his superiors in the United States Army to go to Puerto Rico and recruit dark-skinned musicians to join his military outfit. Musicians in places like Puerto Rico, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Panama, etc., were known for their excellent musical training.
Yeah, no, this is too deep. This is too deep for you N-words. This is too deep for y'all. Like, a lot of y'all are like, man, I know you was going to take me to school, man. I got to take notes and shit. Yes, you got to take notes, dog. Cuba has a long history when it comes to music.
Had it not been for the Cuban musicians coming across the Gulf of Mexico, jazz would have had a different tinge. It would have been very linear.
Ooh, I know some of y'all don't want to hear that right now. You don't want to hear that so much. I'm going to take that back. Pay attention.
Had it not been for the Cuban musicians coming across the Gulf of Mexico, jazz would have had a different tinge. It would have been very linear. It was the Latin tinge, if you will. John Storm Roberts has a book called The Latin Tinge. It would have been very different had it not had that influence. Congo Square was as much a Latino square as it was an African American square.
Pay attention, kids.
Remember that the Latinos who came here were much closer to the African matrix than were even the African Americans who were here.
I know some of y'all don't want to hear that. So you know what? I'm going to take it back and make you listen again.
The Latinos who came here were much closer to the African matrix than were even the African Americans who were here.
Y'all learning a little something? Once again, go to Hip Hop History, Origins, and Elements YouTube channel. Tell them Dusty Vision sent you. A lot of you won't even mention Dusty Vision because I know you're going to go over there just to argue with them and argue with people in the comments. Y'all in the comments, man, do y'all work? Like, I'd really be thinking, some of y'all work. I see, and I'm talking even to the people in my comment section. I see y'all commenting all day and night, arguing with other people and other comments and in different threads. And I'm like, do y'all got jobs? I'm just saying. But I know that's what most of you guys are going to do anyway. You're going to let me go over there and give him a piece of my mind and let him know that I watched this other documentary that told me that all right, here we go. Let's keep it pushing with this. Y'all heard of Dizzy Gillespie, right? One of the greats. Let's learn a little Dizzy Gillespie history.
Chano also has this great song, and it's one of the biggest b-boy anthems they use today. Manteca. I mean, redid 1,000 times over, but Chano Pozo and Dizzy Gillespie.
If you don't know about Manteca, please get out of my comment section. You 21-year-old idiot.
I've been interested in Cuban music since 1938.
This is the famous, world famous, one of the GOATs of all time, Dizzy Gillespie speaking. Pay attention to what he's saying. What does this have to do with hip hop? If you're asking that, get out of my comment section.
I've been interested in Cuban music since like 1938 because they had some bands used to come into Savoy Ballroom and they let me sit in and I play. So I've been with it.
Dizzy told me backstage at Lincoln Center when I did a concert with all, I promoted a concert. He said, when I heard it, I knew. He said, Felipe, when I heard that music, it was as if I had been waiting for this all my life. It's amazing coming from a guy like Dizzy Gillespie, who comes out of Florence, South Carolina. He said, I knew that was it.
Go to this dude's page, Hip Hop History Origins and Elements, and show some love.
I definitely remember records like Bongo Rock, Apache, Just Begun, and I recognized early that all those records had elements of Latin percussions. And those were the parts, those were the quote-unquote breaks that made the break dancers break.
Are y'all paying attention?
Way back when Break Boys started, you know? What do you think they were dancing off of? Apache.
What did Puerto Ricans bring from Puerto Rican culture? Well, I have family. My family has traditionally been of the Yoruba religion, and those are all about African rhythm. So my family was bringing African culture to New York City through the religion and through the playing of the percussions, which reminds me of, Bongo Rock and all those records that were, break heavy.
I know a lot of y'all don't want to hear that. So guess what? I'm going to play it again.
What did Puerto Ricans bring from Puerto Rican culture? Well, I have family. My family has traditionally been of the Yoruba religion, and those are all about African rhythm. So my family was bringing African culture to New York City through the religion and through the playing of the percussions, which reminds me of, Bongo Rock and all those records that were, break heavy.
But then you had the Mambo era, like I said before, the whole Afro-Latin jazz fusion, which predates a lot of the funk. So, those elements carried over into the funk.
I know a lot of y'all don't want to hear that. So guess what? I'm going to play it again.
Then you had the Mambo era, like I said before, the whole Afro-Latin jazz fusion, which predates a lot of the funk. So, those elements carried over into the funk.
A lot of people are punching the air right now. And a lot of this I already knew because, once again, I've done my hip-hop history and my music history specifically. But just to hear someone put it all into one great pile is great. And it's a really, really well-put documentary. I can't say that enough.
B-boys have tapped into percussion, which is every beat, every rhythm, every sound. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Doesn't matter the speed, doesn't matter the rhythm. We tap into it. The rhythm is real, and B-boys, we made it what it is.
It's hard to quantify exactly how many ways Puerto Ricans and Latins influence hip-hop, Hip-hop wasn't being done in New York in a void. When the rappers looked out into the crowd, they saw, like Fat Joe said, about half of the crowd was Puerto Rican and half of the crowd was black. The people on stage were half and half, but the people in the crowd were about half and half. So you're not going to tell me that didn't influence the artists.
I think that's a good way to end it. And keep in mind, I played, about 4 minutes of a video that is actually looks to be about an hour and 24 minutes. So I didn't give you we didn't even touch the tip of the iceberg. We didn't even really dive into hip hop, really. We talked more jazz and other elements before we even dove into hip hop. But it gets really deep into hip hop. And I encourage everybody out there to check it out. Once again, the Hip Hop History Origins and Elements YouTube channel. Tell them Dusty Vision sent you. Go shoot them a like. Shoot them a subscribe if you like the content. Shout out to Dr. Derek Colon. And if you want to contact him, you could contact him at dr.derekcolon@gmail.com. dr.derekcolon@gmail.com. I'm going to get the heck out of here. Thank you for checking this out. Now, net bang in the comments. I'll see you there, you losers.